Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode. We have an opportunity every week on a Friday, normally at 9 o'clock, to run a show called Savi Sikhs. I'm your host for the next 45 minutes or so, and my name is Dr. Savi. Now, in previous shows, this is the fourth episode in a row on a Friday, we've had some great guests, and also my good friend Gurpreet. Gurpreet's not home today. He's not with us at the moment in terms of he's relaxing, spending time at home. Well, while you're relaxing, Gurpreet, we thought we'd do a one-to-one show. We have a brilliant guest. I have actually met Harinder Singh from SikhRI. SikhRI stands for the Sikh Research Institute before. He's a brilliant chap, international traveller. He's got a very interesting past as well. You don't want to talk about your work in the aeronautical industry, but a number of issues today. He's currently over here doing a lecture tour. Also, if you're interested, you could always go onto YouTube. I had an opportunity to meet him 3 years ago. We had a very healthy discussion about Sikhs in the media, how we're portrayed, and he revealed to me that he was also a consultant on a movie called Anu, Ocean of Pearls. So he's done a lot of work with a lot of great people who are doing a lot of successful stuff for the media to bring Sikhs into a real positive light, a positive understanding of who the Sikhs actually are. Now, we do this program in English. There'll be a little bit of Punjabi as well. But I'd like to, first of all, welcome Harinder Singh to the program. Harinder, good to see you. This time around it's live, not recorded.
Good to be here, and Guru Fateh.
Guru Fateh. Now, your website's pretty amazing. Tell me a little bit about yourself in terms of just a little bit of background. I mean, it must have been one lot of motivation for you to think, I'm doing all this aeronautical stuff, you know, and you were obviously interested in the Sikh religion and educational side of it. And then you were the early founder, or one of the early people that were involved in the SikhRI organization. Yeah?
Sure, you know, I jokingly say that I went from aerodynamics to human dynamics, and aerodynamics is still predictable.
Right.
So the work in the community, especially in educational work, is much more challenging, because I remember when I was a teenager, in pre-teens also, mostly teenagers in Kansas City, I would go to Gurdwara and sit there, and every year the Punjabi class started at the same level.
Right.
Same boring thing done by uncle, auntie, although with a lot of devotion.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, where are all the great Sikhs they talk about? Where are those? You know, so at some point you get tired of it and you stop going to those things, because basically what I learned in today's context, I'll say, that we end up insulting people's intelligence, the way we present information. You know, what is our spirituality? What kind of differences gurus made in South Asian context, and how we as Sikhs need to go extrapolate this worldwide.
Well, that's not to say that if you use Google, it's not there. And just to go remind the audience for a second, you are based in San Antonio, right?
Yes.
So it's good that you're over here.
Okay.
You recovered from your jet lag earlier on. But yeah, I mean, by the way, I want to pick you up on this human dynamics thing.
Sure.
Aerodynamics does have a bit of turbulence when you're flying.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's why I said aerodynamics is still predictable. I develop models to predict random vibrations.
Absolutely.
But human dynamics isn't.
Yeah, but
so which means it's good. You know, we need to work with basically every personality which shows. For example, gurus dealt with different mindsets. Why are we trying to develop the same mindset today? Are we exploding everyone's divine potential?
Well, like I said, I was about to say before, you know, the question I wanted to ask you really was about the fact that, you know, you talked about the fact that there was all this, you know, you went to these Punjabi classes and, you know, there's more out there. Now, we can find that more if we want to.
Sure.
We can use Google.
Yeah.
You know, we're intelligent enough, some of us, to be able to, some are better than others, to be able to use the internet and be able to find that information. So, although that probably wasn't there at the time, there's probably no excuse now, is there, really?
Well, there are. I'll cite somebody. I had organized a conference 5 years back on critical affairs facing the Sikh nation in San Antonio, where we invited national organizations of Sikhs in U.S. and Canada. And, you know, we had asked one of the 5-star journals to come speak to us regarding how do you do strategic planning.
Okay.
He came up to the dais, and, you know, he goes, this is how he started. He says, I was going to come talk to a Sikh group, so I went and asked Mr. and Mrs. Google, tell me something about Sikhs. He said, I went to 20 sites. They had 40 different answers of who you are. So that's internet for you.
Okay.
And then we gave another scenario. I remember I did a course in college called The Real American Hero. I remember Dr. Thomas walked in the class very first day. And he said, although I'm an engineer by training, but I was taking a lot of these courses to develop different faculties of mine. And first day he walks in, he says, this class is about detecting bullshit. That's exactly how I put it. It's a PhD doctor, and that's how he explained.
Right.
He said, in my class, you will get a pass or failing grade if you develop what he called your bullshit detectors. So same thing is this. We hear so many things.
Yeah.
How do you, this is epistemology in academic studies.
Right.
How do you know? What do you know? So, are we going to be following something because your Gyani ji and my Dada ji or my dad believes it? Or is there underlying thesis, underlying feeling which Guru Granth Sahib is generating?
Well, you could argue that the source of the knowledge, the source of the pureness, the essence of what Sikhi actually is actually in the Guru Granth Sahib, right? There's obviously the fact of interpretation, but if we say there's kind of religious knowledge and there's also historical in the context that there is what's happened to the Sikhs over the years, what's happened, the martyrdoms, the freedom fighting, and the freedom fighting that continued even up until the Second World War, and even happens today as well. You see the report from the other week, the fact that Sikhs are there and they're trying to help other people in other communities. Right. So they still have that.
I already saw a T-shirt on that, by the way.
Did you? Really?
Stay calm is the phrase.
Yeah.
It said, stay calm, call a Sikh.
Well, it's very nice. It's good publicity. Right. But coming back to the point, you've got, religious knowledge, which you should always go back to Guru Granth Sahib to actually, really focus in on. And then you've got this historic information. Yeah. Now, there's a phrase that people use that says that those who are in power are the ones that have the ability to rewrite the history. Right. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is the people, after a number of generations, read that history. Yeah. The fact, the terrible things that happened in, the Holocaust. Yeah. We know about that today. It's well, referenced. There are movies about it.
Sure.
There are, countless writers that have said and condemned it, and Hitler's entire extermination of the Jewish community.
Right.
Where are our writers?
Let me build on that. So that's actually a good point. In our case, if I may quote, one of my favorite writers is Professor Puran Singh, and he writes very eloquently. In one quote, he says, "The history of Sikh people is still a sealed book." Why? And I'm conjecturing how. Here, because it's a sealed book. Because who is telling our history?
Right.
First, Bengalis wrote about it, then European writers wrote, then Indian nationalists wrote. So we haven't even written our history. Like you reference Holocaust. I mean, sure, there are still denials in Louisiana and in Iran, even some in Europe as well, and in Britain as well.
Right.
But most of the public accepts it.
Most of the public accepts.
So let's bring our Holocaust, or what we will call a Lukaras tradition.
Yeah.
We can't even tell our own story. So this is what history is very important. But even the litmus test for history for us comes from Guru Granth Sahib. At least for me it does. Where it says, Babaniya kahaniya put se put karen. Only tell that story, that Sakhi, that narrative, which has the capacity to transform an average child into a progeny. Which means the onus is on you. Are you going to repeat everything you hear? We call that gossip, I think.
Right.
You have to have some onus on yourself that this narrative has the capacity to transform you. So that's the history we need to tell.
But you see, that narrative, is there. That purity is there. But the ability and the self-realization, I call it, my favorite word of the week at the moment is something, a little hyphen in the middle.
Sure.
I think there is. Self-realization is when you yourself understand what you need to do, and you understand that you need to go and seek that knowledge, you will go and do it. But how do you bring that about in people? Is that something that you just got to wait a few years and go, okay, I'm now ready to actually understand what I need to know? Or is it something that you ingrain to your children, that you say to them, it's important for you to know this. It's important for you to go and seek out this information.
True, right? It is. But, let's say when you are doing parenting, there are certain things you're teaching your children, right?
Right.
Basically, we need to teach them to think also. While we're teaching them part, while we're teaching them kirtan, while we're teaching them historical narratives, here is what it boils down to for me. You look at any Sakhi, let's even just look at the lives of Guru Nanak Sahib, and there's so many Sakhis which are popular. Yeah. Narratives essentially, right? You know what they all boil down to? You look at any Sakhi, Guru Nanak Sahib is asking a simple question after each thing. He says, does this make sense? As Sikhs, we have stopped asking this. Does this make sense? If somebody says that today, we just say, oh man, don't create, waves and let's just do this. Yeah, even this is acceptable. So we make everything status quo.
Right.
Guru
Is that
Nanak,
because we're afraid to challenge
we are
it?
very afraid. We are very afraid because we ourselves are ignorant. You know, any little knowledge is a very dangerous thing. So right now we are getting little knowledges. And it's getting dangerous. In fact, we use the word, oh, this is controversial, don't say this. And actually I want to talk about that word for a second if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, the word
You know, what is controversial?
Yeah.
Guru Nanak was controversial every time he did something. On his wedding day, people were trying to kill him. There is a Gurdwara, Kachi Khand in Batala. Why were they trying to, they hated him so much? Because he was questioning the superstructure which said this is the only way to do things. So we are the followers, if you say you're a follower of SikhRI, this is our tradition, where we say, no, we must know why this way. While we develop our feelings in our faith, while we build the faculties of our mind, we need to still question, because if you don't question, corruption comes in.
But
and you know all the corruptions have come in among us, within us, as well as in our institutions.
But in a positive perspective, because it's always important to put it from a positive perspective, and that is that, you know, I often think it's quite amazing when you see it, as Sikhs, if you see something happening, I see it with other people as well. In most cases with Sikhs, if somebody is fallen over or a lady needs to, you know, help or whatever, there is a Sikh guy that will always say, I know it sounds like a trivial example, but if there's somebody on a train, I normally notice, you know, a Sikh guy will, do you want to sit down? Because, you know, it's kind of like, it's almost in our psyche to help other people. Do you agree with that, or you disagree with that?
I agree, but I would say that we don't need to pat ourselves on the back just on I agree, but I would say that we don't need to pat ourselves on the back just on
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying
well, you kind of are. Yeah. Yes, but I think that's a normal human behavior.
Right.
And I want to separate the two things.
Right.
A normal human behavior is, I don't know anyone who doesn't feel good when they help.
Right.
So we are supposed to do that. This is who we are. You know, we don't do this because I'm a Sikh. We do this because it's the right thing to do.
But the true person that does it in a selfless way,
Yeah.
which is what we're supposed to be doing
Yeah.
when we do seva,
Well,
is that we don't expect anything back.
True, but
You know?
I think when somebody is helping somebody on a tube, I'm sure they're not expecting anything back
They're not
at that
expecting
point.
anything back.
So this one
Yeah.
thing, that's a normal human behavior.
Right.
Criteria in SikhRI are much bigger, because SikhRI is about developing every faculty we have, every feeling we have. So for example, the idea of doing good in SikhRI is not that you just do charity. It actually says, Punnadan ka kare sarir. Make your whole existence of benevolence. That's a very, so it's basically saying how you treat your children, how you treat your wife, how you talk to your community members,
Absolutely.
how you talk to extra religionists who are not Sikhs.
Yeah.
That all determines, your everyday behavior determines how benevolent you are, not a particular act or task.
Okay.
That's what SikhRI is about.
But you don't consciously do it. It happens kind of on a subconscious level.
Well, when you do something for a while habitually,
Yeah.
that's when it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
Initially, everything we do is a discipline.
Right.
For example, you brush your teeth at a certain point in our life, we learn it's good for us, so we do it.
Right.
But every day when we do it, we're not thinking that.
Right.
So everything has to develop, start out of a discipline. And if it only remains a discipline, it will never be a lifestyle. And this is what I'm noticing. The things we should celebrate as Sikhs are, what are the positive? I think one of the biggest things we should celebrate are, we are here to live. People have declared us dead 25 years ago. 1961, Kuchwan Singh wrote a book that Sikhs will not see the next millennium.
Right.
200 years ago, there were declarations, we are here. There were 27 million in the world. Our work is cut out from two fronts. I think we need to work really hard to explain and to ourselves. And we worry way too much about the world doesn't know who Sikhs are. Yeah, because I don't know who I am.
Well, you know, you can't blame them because, you know, post 9/11, you know, we've got all this, and, you know, you touched a little bit on when we were talking earlier on about, you know, some of the institutions that are trying, that they're doing their best on a community level.
But I want to come back, though. I was referring to something else. I said the number one thing we really need to work on is, who am I? This is a fundamental question in Gurbani. Suno roye tu kaun, kahan te aayo? When somebody asks me, why am I Sikh? And this is what we generally do. We have developed our, we'll call checklist. I do my Simran tick. I've done my nitname. I've done one langar a year. I've done one Akhand part. This is not what a Sikh is.
Right.
You know, we were talking about what inspires us to be Sikhs. And that's a question I have for you and your audience.
Yeah.
Most of us became Sikhs. Yes, there are exceptions. Most of us became Sikhs 7 to 9 generations ago. When it was death penalty was the reward you get for changing your religion.
Absolutely.
Why did they change their religion is a question I have for you and your audience. What were the benefits? They were going to actually, they were being killed en masse. Even then, people in South Asia at the time chose to become Sikhs. Why? and the only answer I can come up with is when I look at trends, is they found value in their lifestyle. They found here is something which makes me free, mukt, which makes me free while I'm in this world. This makes me free in whatever religious practice, spiritual practice, economic practice, and political practice I'm involved in. So this is where I think we need to go back. Yeah, we need to inspire the lifestyle which is not just spiritual, which is not just activist, because this is also fashion these days. It needs to be a Sikh lifestyle which incorporates every dimension of life.
Yeah, but I do need to kind of bring you back to this issue about mistaken identity, which I touched on just earlier on before we got into
my point was,
before we got to the
I think my point was, and I do want to stress that, we worry way too much about what the world thinks of us. Yeah. We need to worry equally, if not more, about what do I think of myself.
No, I agree with that.
Because if I am not comfortable with who I am, I cannot tell the world who I am.
Yeah, but in one sense, you need to know who you are.
Do you disagree with that?
No,
I want to actually, because I think this is a major thing.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
It's like telling the world who I am, but I don't know who I am.
Yeah, but I want to put it to you in the context of, let's try and sort out the context that I'm trying to put it to you, right? One context is the fact that, we have a mistaken identity issue.
Absolutely,
right?
we do.
And that threatens who we are, right? And I do agree with the point that you're saying with regards to, we need to recognize the beauty in that Sikhi that we have, and we need to practice that, and it shouldn't be habitual, and we need to understand that, and we know the reasons why a lot of people became Sikhs. But right now, the challenge that we have at the moment is that our identity, what we believe in, what we try to profess as Sikhs in terms of the good things that we do, the way that we help communities, is under threat. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Well, it is under threat, but in
one sense that we are trying our best to survive as Sikhs, and it's good that we're here.
Well, you lumped in a lot of things in there.
Well, no, there's two distinct things here.
If it's identity, I totally agree with you, but I want to go back to the root cause.
Right.
Of course, identity is under threat. But what is the root cause? Root cause is we have been in America 100 plus a year. We are celebrating 100th anniversary of our first Gurdwara in Stockton. Oh. Abbotsford in Canada just celebrated 100th anniversary. England has gone through those anniversaries 10 years ago.
Thailand's got it, or whatever it is,
So our diasporas are doing that. I think those of us who came to this country initially came for economic reasons and secondarily for political reasons.
Right.
We have not worked to figure out who we are. So if we have lived in a place for 100 years and they don't know who you are, I would say it's our fault. We have ghettoized ourselves. We have not explained to what Guru Nanak is, so they have to create an image to understand who you are. Basically, it's an age-old thing. If you don't tell your story, they will come up with a story to explain.
Which is what you said right at the beginning, is that someone's going to write it for you.
So that's why we need to tell our own narratives. Right. And I cannot tell my narrative if I'm not comfortable with my narrative.
Do you think
you become comfortable with
But do you think you're allowed to tell your narrative?
Absolutely.
Do you think Sikhs No, but do you think Sikhs, who controls the editorial? It's fantastic. We've got Sikh channel. We've got other two channels as well.
So can we
control it? I don't get a phone call from Newsnight, BBC Newsnight, saying, "Hey, come on, Newsnight, and give us your opinion." They'll wheel their own people in. Or I do get a phone call from BBC Radio 2 sometimes, which is lovely, and they ask me to come along and give a faith perspective.
Sure.
But that's a kind of niche program that comes in.
So we all know what the problem is. I want to go towards root cause and solution.
Right.
If someone doesn't invite you, if someone doesn't bring in the Sikh perspective, we've been 100 years. Did we even set up one institution which can do it? Those perspectives are brought in when you are a force.
So we're not
in
a force?
US,
Sikhs are making money. Sikhs are owning businesses. Sikhs are owning businesses. Sikhs have got loads of cash.
I can blame the governments in India and here and institutions everywhere in the world, and that is part of the reality that they don't present us properly. But the other reality is we need to be equally harsh on ourselves. We as individuals are rich. We have not developed a single rich institution. And I don't mean by rich just a monetary budget of the institution, but with people of high caliber who know what they're doing. We need to invest in creating community institutions. Look at what gurus did. Every guru was not lecturing people. Gurus developed people. They spent 240 years on this earth developing us. Every guru developed a rich institution so they can carry forward the ideas when they are not around. We don't do that. We are individual based, essentially we become cultish, that's why. We run out of steam if we are individual efforts.
But there are philanthropists as well who are running little projects and stuff or doing big projects.
I mean, things are good, But there is, I'm sure you've seen there is a vast difference between good to great.
Okay. Now, we have recognized that there's clearly, in one sense, you're hinting there's obviously an issue of education from a self perspective. I call it self-realization, to want to go and seek that information. There is an issue associated with whether or not there's a role of different institutions to be able to do that. If you look at SikhRI, you went into that. You established with your other board members the fact that there should be consistency in curriculum, that when people are teaching the aspects of Sikhi, there should be the fact that they're following some strict guidelines in terms of what needs to be communicated. Because otherwise, and again, we've had this conversation before, people make it up as they go along.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you, I have been to a few groups recently, and they're lovely in the context that they're trying their best to get people together to talk. But sometimes I sit back and I go, you got no one here that's saying to you that the path that you're running down is off in some tangent, and you're going to end up like kind of completely misunderstanding what the original essence was.
Let me present
So should there be somebody there?
Well, let me present it this way. Diana Eck is a professor of religion at Harvard. She was being interviewed by Charlie Rose. He's one of the famous, interviewers in America.
Right.
And he asked her, Diana, explain religion to me in America.
Okay.
And I like the response you can equally apply to Sikhs. She said, Charlie, we don't have religion in America anymore. We have consumeristic religion. You find 10 people of your kind, and you open up your own church.
Right, right.
And that's what we do. We find 10 of our own kind because we find self-satisfaction in what we are discussing. Now, so let me come back to your original issue. By the way, I work for Sikh Research Institute. There are 6 of us full-time there right now. We have a 5-person board, 11-person advisory board. Basically, the idea there is we need to develop educational approaches. We need to stop preaching. Preaching is old news. In fact, in Sikhi, preaching was never there.
Right.
We developed people. People were given choices on how to live. Same things we need to do. We need to talk in people's lingo. Why do we keep using old lingos? Today the generation gap is 7 years.
What's old lingo versus new lingo? Clarify
lingo
that.
is that you have to use today's examples, today's terminology to explain your ideas.
Right, today's context.
Exactly.
Right,
you have to contextualize. If you look at Guru Granth Sahib, Guru period, agrarian economies, most of examples are from agriculture. Today you need to bring on ideas from football and soccer and North American football or whatever else you want to call it. Right? The idea is lingo is what people understand, communication. We need to figure out our communication, present Sikhi in today's context without changing or presenting my personal preference as being the law. And this is the danger we are noticing. This is why I'm saying preaching is not the way, because most of the preachers, they present their preference as the law of Sikhi, which is not the case. So we really need to present it from an angle, here is our tradition. Here is how we celebrate life. Religion is a celebration of life. Guru Granth Sahib vich ki aa raha? Guru Amar Das Pasha says, Anand paya meri mai. He's in jubilation. But most of us, when we talk about Sikhi, we make it such a task, like overburdened with tasks. We make it like strictness and this and that. Discipline is there, yes, but this is a celebration. How do we look at various dimensions of life is what we are after at Sikh Research Institute.
So do you think, one of my questions earlier on was, do you think we're allowed to communicate that to the general medium, to the general media, to the mainstream media, not the individual channels, to the mainstream media, which goes in the fact that those who need to be inspired get access to that knowledge. Those that don't know who Sikhs are suddenly realize, hey, there's a whole vast load of information here. So it's the beauty of Sikhi that they don't get access to that.
As I said a while ago, our work is cut out.
Right.
I just don't want to blame
who's cutting the work out? Who's cutting it? We cut it out, or somebody's cut it out for us?
It's cut out
is
for
there a
us.
conspiracy?
It basically means, no, I'm saying it's cut out for us, which means those of us who feel our voices need triple of our effort.
Okay.
And that's when things happen.
But do we know the root cause of why those voices are not being heard?
I personally believe, based on Gurbani, I don't know who I am. If I don't value myself, I don't value my tradition, and I am going to find Indian paradigms and Western paradigms to explain it, people who study us, people who look at us, they already know we're shallow.
Right.
We need to be very sure. If I carry myself, if I really believe, for example, in Sikh it says, Harmandar e Sarira, this is the temple of God. Harmandar e Jagata, this is the temple of Vaheguru, this world. Do you really feel this? If I am comfortable about who I am, if I'm constantly developing myself, Jagat Jyot idea, if I'm drenched in love, I'm sure we won't need to do a PR. People will be asking us, I think right now we have a lot of superfluous stuff.
I went to a really amazing exhibition yesterday, and it's happening up in London at the moment, and hopefully we're going to get the people that have organised it together at SOAS, University of London, which is the Golden Temple exhibition.
Yes.
And there was a group, I think they're called City Sikhs, very nice group of people that get together on a regular basis. They have speakers coming in, and they organised this event, and it was a guided tour. And I was quite fascinated by one of the girls who had raised the question, and she said, do Sikhs need to return to showing the world their humanitarian side? And in one sense, there's an old, you'll probably recognize this from engineering, that quality shines through.
Yeah.
The old Xerox example, which was that there was a meeting going on, and somebody had 5 items on the agenda, and at the 6th item on the agenda was quality. And then somebody in the meeting put their hand up and said, should you not have quality next to every single one of those lines? So the quality of the Sikh shines through if we do more of the things that we were intended to do as Sikhs. Do you agree or disagree?
How can anyone disagree with it? But
No,
I disagree with the approach.
Okay.
I'll again quote one of my favorite poets, Professor Harinder Singh. He has a book called Spirit-Born People, and one of the chapters starts with this line. He says, first life, then its expression.
Right.
What I feel, most Sikhs, including myself, we are engaged in expression, but we are lacking our own substance, our own experience.
Right.
So absolutely, even if you pick up a book by Maxwell's Leadership, the best leadership, he says, is personhood, and authoritative is the worst. Look at among us. Most of us are authoritative leaders because we are in position, and we are not personhood. Gurus were personhood leaders. People did things not because they had to. They did it because they loved the Guru.
Right.
And this is where we need to go back. I want to go look at the exhibition as well, and I wrote through the plan as well, and I'll be going there as well. But I'm involved in a similar project like that, something called Punjab Digital Library.
You are? Yeah.
Where basically the idea is that anything of Punjab, is our prerogative to save. Whether it's Sikhi related, Muslim related, Hindu related, Buddhist related, every news which comes out of Punjab, whether it's the Western, Pakistani side of Punjab or Indian side, is negative. Are we going to become like a Baghdad, where it was a Renaissance center, now it's being bombed? People have bombed the hell out of it. That's what's happening to us. Our bombs are the drugs and the sixth Darya, as they call it now, the sixth river of Punjab. So, my friend and I, Devinder Palan and I, we decided 80 years ago, we want to beautify. So somebody can start telling our own narratives, bring out what is best about Punjab.
So do you think it's a bit similar to kind of Getty Images type of thing? Where
Well, Getty Images, I don't want to get into comparisons.
I meant in the context that, photographs are available, they're copyrighted, they're protected,
No, we are not into any of this. We believe the culture of Punjab belongs to people of Punjab. So everything we do at Punjab Digital Library is free of cost. It's 24/7, and nobody has a copyright.
So it's online, right?
It's online.
You can download stuff in low resolution.
You can go to Punjab Digital Library and check it out yourself. You can use Mr. and Mrs. Google for it if you want.
Right.
The point is, we are really after how do we bring out greatness of Punjab. If there is a beautifully handwritten Quran there, if there is a spy letter on Banda Singh Bahadur, what are they writing in 1710 about him?
Yeah,
if there is a first Punjabi newspaper, why don't we have access to it? Why do we always tell the British version or the Indian nationalist or the Bengali version? Why are we not telling the Punjabi version? Because Punjabis have not told their stories yet. And among Punjabis, Sikh story will come out. The best university in South Asia was Takshila, which was in Punjab.
Right.
Nobody even knows about it.
Do you think
anymore.
people are interested in history?
I believe everyone wants to go back. There's an old couplet I'm remembering of Rumi here. Loosely I translate from Persian. It says, everyone is listening to the reed or flute, that how beautiful the sound is producing, but how many of us are really listening to its cry? It's actually saying, can you take me back to where I was carved out from?
Okay.
And this is our story.
What was the root of it? Where did it come from?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the U.S. there is, I read a lot of stuff on African American literature as well.
Okay.
And they're leading intellectuals. They're now writing, we don't even know who we are. We need to start taking our sons and daughters to Africa because everything else is lost. I personally believe Sikhs living in the West are perhaps somewhat spiritually connected to Sikhi and somewhat intellectually connected. We are not emotionally connected to Sikhi. Although it's not a pilgrimage for us, we need to see that Fatehgarh Sahab's place,
Right.
where Chote Sahibzadas were bricked alive.
Absolutely.
We need to see that Kachi Gadi. Then we'll understand how 125,000 equal one.
Because sometimes there are videos and things that I see sometimes.
It's not the same thing.
They show videos of the Gurdwara in different places, you know.
Even if you are an ultra-liberal Jew and
Right.
you stand next to the Wailing Wall,
Yep.
it will change you. We are not, emotionally we are losing connection with Gurus. Emotionally we are losing connection to SikhRI. They're not pilgrimage centers for us, but we need to visit the places. Like Guru Ka Bagh Morcha was anniversary 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, sure.
How many of us relate where your and my forefathers or foremothers were part of this revolutionary movement, which was a great movement to show how do you win back the Gurdwaras, how do you fight the corrupt Mahants, how do you fight the corrupt institutions when they are in conjunction working to demolish you with the governments of the time. This happened 100 years ago.
Right.
We in our own Akal Jathedar who was sold out, that he was given Saropa, he gave us Saropa to General Dyer. We have lessons to learn. We have lessons to learn how to bring back.
Even when the Udham Singh anniversary,
Exactly, right here.
How many people were talking about what happened?
So my point is,
how many people go to
SikhRI needs to
Caxton
become
Hall,
real.
You know? Yeah.
We need to get out of our rhetoric.
Okay. Now, whose role is that then? Is that us as individuals? Is it the we or a me? You know, like in Muhammad Ali used to say, said in the Oxford speech, which is you know, we, me, or me, we. You know.
Yeah. Well, you know,
a lot of people talk about we. We should do this. We should do that. You know.
When President Obama was giving his inaugural speech, he quoted Friedman, I think, and he said, "We are the generation we have been waiting for. In SikhRI, we also don't have messiahs. It's you and your guru. When that complex becomes active, people do wonderful things."
Okay.
Everyone in SikhRI I know who was great, who we remember in our Ardas, who we mentioned the kind of heroes we were just talking about, or sheroes. It was whatever they did, no institution told them what to do, no individual told them what to do. When they exploded their personalities, when they developed a great relationship with the Guru. This is what SikhRI is about, exploding your divine potential.
So if we look at it from initial thing that we started talking about, which was more about knowledge, and we spoke about identity, and then to be inspired, right? Self-realization. Those are the 3 or 4 things that we've touched on so far. You know, we've also spoken about SikhRI as well, and the work that it's done for consistency of curriculum. We're touching a bit on digital library, which brings it more accessible. Maybe people will stand up and say, "Wow, look at that asset base." Yeah. How many articles have you got right now? 8,000, 10,000? What have you got?
6 million pages.
Okay, so you've got a lot of content, right? I want to return to this inspiration point. Okay, so you have all this wonderful stuff going on around you. You have Guru Granth Sahib there. You have translations if you go and look for them. You know, whatever the issue is about essence or translations, or the fact that you should go and learn Gurmukhi and get to know it yourself. Whose role is it to inspire people, or people get inspired by themselves? You mentioned just now, just pick up on your last point, the fact that when the person has got that connection with the Guru, they go on to do great things. Should they be inspired, or should they just wait around and hope they'll see a digital library, and oh, that's pretty good, maybe I need to learn more?
Any question which has a word should in it, I don't subscribe to it, because that makes it a task. Okay. That makes it this whole Semitic tradition where you have to do it, otherwise blah, 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 something will happen to you.
Right.
No.
Right.
What is inspiration? You know, I'm trying to imagine this, that Guru Nanak Sahib is doing something. Hundreds and thousands of people saw what he did. Did everyone get inspired? No. Even with a Guru, that didn't happen. Guru Amar Das Pasha lived 23 miles away from him. And he was older, which means they're similar age group. He never personally saw him. So this is where in English when we say there's a time and place for everything.
Right.
Inspiration is when you are really looking for something. This is the law of attraction people are talking about today. This is the secret of Oprah. If you really want something, and I'll put it in the formulaic way if you want me to, if the engineer in me comes out, when passion meets skills, you are inspired.
Okay.
If one of them is missing, it won't happen. If you're passionate about anything in life, Bhai Kanhaiya was passionate. Did he wait for every Sikh?
No,
in fact,
no.
But people who were fighting on behalf of the group, they were equally passionate. This is what SikhRI is about. You figure out your passion and develop the skill set, you'll make a difference.
Absolutely.
Passion meets skills. That's inspiration.
Yeah, that's very nice.
And you're not waiting on anyone. You're waiting on your calling, your If somebody tells you your passion is this, which is what we do, Madonna told us 20 years ago, Papa, don't preach. We keep preaching.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We need to stop it. We really should be looking at everyone is gifted with some quality by Vaheguruji, the creator. We need to figure out, can we facilitate an environment where people can explore their potentialities?
Okay. Now, when we talk about, we have touched slightly on the fact that, are we allowed to do this in terms of the media? I don't want to go back to that.
Yes.
But I want to move this on to, are we allowed to do it within the context of the Gurdwara? Is there a role that the Gurdwara has to play for the youth of today? And when I say youth, I mean, I was telling you, even when I was, younger, and I went to the Gurdwara, and people used to say to me, you shall inherit this. You are the future committee. I didn't make it. Maybe I should have applied. But the point being that there are people in committees, and we shouldn't underrate the fact that we're not here to insult anyone or say negative things. We're here to talk about the fact that it's a hard piece of work to look after a Gurdwara. It is difficult. It's administration. There's a lot of things they need to do to get the Gurdwara to work on a daily basis. But what is the role of Gurdwara for youth when they walk in the door? And it's good that they've got Sikhi to the Max up on the wall. They can see the translations.
Well,
are they getting spiritual guidance when they need it?
I'll come back to the root issue. In Guru Granth Sahib, Guru Granth Sahib says very clearly, Guru Dwara hoye soji paisi. The role of Gurdwara, by becoming Guru-oriented, the idea is to gain insights of life. So now I put it on both sides. If you are going there for some other purpose, you need to clarify that. And if you're running that institution, you need to clarify why you're running it. Are you giving insights of life there? If we are not, then it's some other thing.
Well, you could argue that the Hukamnama is there, so you can learn from the Hukamnama, can't you?
See,
the
we are not into argument.
I'm not into argument. I'm just saying.
The question was the role.
Figure of speech, okay?
Yeah, so I'm saying the role. The role is to give insights of life. So I want people to evaluate themselves. That's why I said, like you said, you don't want negativity. So people need to evaluate themselves. Am I going there to get insights? Or am I doing a check, weekly check? Or if you are on the committee, then you, among other things, because they do a lot of work, as you said, they need to be asking, which insights are we providing? How are we dealing with single mothers? How are we dealing with youth? If Guru Angad Sahib is setting up a khada next to Gurdwara, why don't we have the best gym? And if somebody just comes to eat langar, why are we worried? Isn't that what we say? People come here for
I said that to somebody in the committee once.
So idea is, people who run it, they need to evaluate every year, every quarter, make it a, what we call metrics. Yeah. What is your metric? How are you going to measure your success?
This is your dashboard.
Right. So Gurdwaras, while I'm saying this needs to be evaluated in terms of insights of life. The reality is, in the Guru period, people who ran Gurdwaras, Mahants, became corrupt. Reality is 100 years ago, they were run by corrupt people. To the level they were committing rapes in Gurdwara complexes, and the government of India at the time, with the British government, conspired to keep them in charge. What did our people do? So from history tells us, they created parallel institutions. They did not sit. So if you and I are not creating parallel institutions, if you don't like something, we'll develop an alternative.
Right, okay.
That's what we need to do. Guru Gobind Patsha at some point also took him to task. And when there is a memorialization of that, we can debate that some other day if you want, about capital punishment and how we dealt with them. But the point is, if you do nothing, only weeds grow. To grow a plant, it requires a lot of work. If there's negativity, it's okay. But how you're going to deal with it, that attitude needs to be developed.
Do you think the Gurdwara committees today, in all the Gurdwaras and all the good work that they do everywhere, realize that there's an underlying strength, an underlying level of professionals that are out there in the community today who want to communicate with them, want to see some changes there in terms of, like I said before about spiritual guidance, or they use it as a reference center, or they've got a gym next door. Yeah. I mean, I went to, it was the first time I'd been actually, to Gravesend Gurdwara about a week and a half ago, and I was just absolutely amazed about how incredible that building is. It is so beautiful. It's a beautiful building that they've built. If you get time while you're here, go and have a look at it. I strongly recommend it. And then you look at, there's so much great resource there. There's so much money that's being spent there. One context is it shows the love of the people that they put that money in to build that institution. But, maybe I go back to the professionals, the people that have that knowledge, the doctors, the scientists, the lawyers, the people that work in call centers, whatever. Those people build a connection with those Can they get that connection with the Gurdwara committees today? You think they're open to that? Because they'll sign you up for membership, won't they, to vote them in? So how come they still kind of vote in every year, and then is there a connection? Where's the connection?
There is no connection.
Okay.
I mean, let's be real. There is no connection. Gurbani, again, but I'm going to come to the root cause as I understand from Gurbani. In Gurbani it says, where it says Kood Raja, right next to it says Kood Parja, which means if the heads are blind, ignorant, so is the constituency.
Right.
Similar other ideas are found in Gurbani where it says, Andi Rayyat Gyan Vihuni, Rayyat is constituency. If the constituency is blind, what can you expect from the leadership? I bring it back to like Plato's Republic's thesis, that masses reflect leadership and leaders reflect masses. So we get the leaders we deserve. What do we do? I mean, when we don't like a particular institution, if they're not catering to our needs, we go find someone else.
Yeah, or they vote somebody else in.
Well, that. But you can keep fighting in the same regurgitating manner where nothing comes out, or you can, like Singh Sabha Gurdwara is a good example to bring. 100 years ago, they were not Gurdwaras. They were outside the Gurdwara study circles when the Gurdwaras were under the corrupt Mahants. When Gurdwaras were freed under Gurdwara Sudhar Lahar, Gurdwara Freedom Movement, and then the memorialization of the success of that movement was the new Gurdwaras are called Singh Sabha Gurdwaras. We need to do similar things perhaps. Create a parallel institution. Why? If you don't change the input, how do you expect a better output? We need to change our inputs.
Yeah, so as individuals that go to Gurdwara, we got an opportunity to communicate. We have a responsibility to communicate with them.
If you choose to exercise that.
Yeah.
You always have options.
In a hope that there will be...
There is no shoulds, there are not allowances, there are no permissions we need.
Yeah,
if
it's our institution.
Revolutionary, we follow Guru Nanak Sahib. Permission is not what you seek. We report to only one Sahib. Sahib mera ek ho hai. I only report to one master. So I need to have a great relationship with my universal creator. Out of that relationship, I will stop asking for permissions. I will figure out solutions.
Okay. Now, one of the topics I really wanted to talk to you about is almost like we probably need a separate program for that, I hope, but you're only here for a short period, was about, I'm going to move the subject on to something else actually, Sikhs in the media. Related slightly, because it's about the fact that it's a representation of who we are. Not the fact that we necessarily get access to be able to communicate that. It's more about, there's a lot of Punjabi films made, there's a lot of negativity portrayed about Sikhs in Bollywood. Recently, there has been a trend of leading actors to portray themselves as the hero, inverted commas, of being the Sikh guy. Rocket Singh, whatever, is an example film. Is that just a fad? Or do you think it's something that, that there's a slight change in that Bollywood scene in the commercial mainstream at the moment?
Well, since our last conversation on that, I think there has been changes. Yeah, I think in the last 3 years, there have been some substantial changes. I think the jury is still out as to whether it's a fad or a serious sort of conversation has become at a Hollywood productions or Bollywood productions for that matter. But we welcome this change. We would like to see more, but that's okay. Who doesn't like to see more? I think the change is welcome. You are seeing some leading people who are trying to present Sikhs as more than oxymoron. So that's a welcome change. And I also want to mention that there is a groundbreaking work happening in Punjabi cinema as well, which is also welcome. The level of cinematography matters as well.
Right.
And that is, we are beginning to see this, the movies which are made out.
You talking about the quality of the film or the quality of the script?
Quality of the film, well, all of it. I mentioned one example, the cinematography. Right. See, the things don't change overnight. If we look in last 3 years, we have seen at least 5 movies where better portrayal of Sikhs have come out, better than what it was.
What do you think?
We have seen Punjabi films where the quality of movies is improving.
Why
we have seen newer genre which has come up.
Called?
Newer genre where Sikh-based themes are also coming.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I think all this is good. If we have 100 people doing it, when we have 1,000 people, you can expect, 1 or 2 blockbusters.
Why do you think has happened in the last couple of years? What's actually radically changed? Does something say, oh, we haven't done that storyline before, maybe we need to do that? Or has there been some kind of pressure from somebody saying, actually, it's probably a good idea if you did actually not take the mickey out of people that are disabled?
Well, I think we're learning to work with people is definitely one of them.
Right.
We usually become a complaining community.
Right.
When something happens, we don't like it. But now we are seeing musicians, directors, philanthropists actually working at inception stage and trying to influence it in their own ways. We actually had, the movie you referenced, the producer was a Sikh guy. So this is what happens, exactly. So the point is that it's like a bureaucratic system. If you're going to chew them out, then they're going to help you. If you work with them, it might take them 5 years, but you'll see some changes.
Okay, so it's a positive thing in terms of some of the
I think so. I think we are getting better trained people, more inspiring people, and I'm not going to neglect the fact that pressure does help. So the public campaigns which Sikhs did from SGPC to here, I think some of that also helped. Absolutely. See, life is not lived in vacuum. You have things happening, multi-pronged approaches, and they might produce a better result in a few years.
Okay, well, I described you in my Twitter account as inspirational, and you're here. I'm going to forget why you're the first question I asked you, you're here, you're doing some stuff, you're doing some exciting presentations that I would strongly recommend people go along to. Down to West London on Saturday the 27th, which is tomorrow, from 6 to 8 p.m. at Havelock Road. You've got a presentation. What's that one called?
I think that's the one on Grust. Right. Figuring out what is the recommendation by the Guru on how to live a householder lifestyle. So if you're looking to get married, or if you are married, but more those are looking to get married, how do you look at marriage from a Sikh perspective rather than just a social contract? Okay,
and then on Sunday the 28th, it's from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Park Avenue, Gurdwara. You are talking about 1984.
What that one is really about. This is a new thing I've developed, essentially showing what led to 1984. So there's a lot of conflicts about as to what 84 is about. Here I'm trying to reconstruct 47 to 84. So we understand in the history of events, history of what's happening, relationship between Indian state and Sikhs, to understand what happened in 84.
Brilliant. On Monday the 29th, again, this is Bank Holiday Monday, 12 to 2, Havelock Road, Inspiring Gurmat.
Yeah, their idea is what we were discussing basically today. What really is Gurmat? Everyone's, whatever we present, including what I present, we say this is Gurmat, but is this really Guru's wisdom? Or what constitutes Guru's wisdom? So that's what's being talked about there.
That's very good. And again, God, you've got a busy day on Monday, haven't you?
Yeah.
You're talking from 12 to 2, and then you're talking from 5 to 7, Havelock Road, same place, you don't have to move around, Naam.
Yeah, this was, a lot of people have been asking about this, so the idea is, what is Naam? And through Guru Granth Sahib, we're trying to explore what Naam is, how you do it, what should be done, benefits of it, how do you know somebody actually has Naam in them, those ideas. Anything surrounding the culture of Naam, we're going to be discussing this. After this, I'm heading to Birmingham as well for a day, doing some stuff there at a Khalsa camp.
Right.
And then in Glasgow, we have 2-3 workshops as well on the weekend.
And then you're going to go back to San Antonio later?
Back to San Antonio.
Okay.
The idea of these workshops, essentially, or presentations, is that, we need to start looking at things in specificness. We can't have a same lecture on Sikhi and keep giving it everywhere. That's not development then. We need to look at specifics of things. We need to look at epistemology, what I was calling. How do we know? What do we know? I'm not saying that what I'm presenting is the only answer, but we need to start looking at it a little bit more width and depth.
Right. Okay. And then examples, you can use a variety of different examples as well, can't you?
Absolutely. And then they're going to their presentations with question-answer sessions.
Very good. So you can do Q&A afterwards.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we're coming to the end. I don't think there's that much time left, really. We've had a great opportunity to meet you, to get an insight into what you've been doing, and we did touch on a number of subjects. We have touched on your work. We've touched on Sikhs in the media. We spoke about Punjabi Digital Project. Keep using that word, probably use it for the third or fourth time to this evening. Self-realization, but more about the fact that, the inspiration, the fact that information is out there, you can get it.
If I may, as I understand, in Sikhi, self-realization equals God realization.
Right.
Because Vaheguru for us, God, if you want to choose to use it, but Guru Nanak Sahib used Ikko Onkar. Ikko Onkar he describes, and when you bring those attributes within you, self-realization equals God realization.
Right. And we also spoke about the fact that if you are going to Gurdwara, then surely, we hope at the end of the day the committees are inspired to do things for the youth and vice versa. You as youth or people that go, if you're not youth, you're at least a person who goes to Gurdwara, you can ask for things as well It's your institution at the end of the day. You put them there. You can help to make that change if you need to.
Well, not just help. I think we should strategize to win them back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because there are places.
Yeah.
It's a Gurdwara. If something is a Gurdwara, it belongs to community, not one individual or his or her own party.
Yeah. We own it. It's a we.
To win them back.
Yeah.
And our history is we always had to fight to win them back.
Okay, that's good. And finally, we were really talking about the fact that you've got these fantastic presentations that you're doing. I strongly recommend that you go along and attend them. You've got a whole choice of days that you can go. And if you're not in London, you can go up to Birmingham to the SikhRI camp where that's actually happening as well.
I'll give two websites.
Yeah.
Sikh Research Institute's website for your viewers is SikhRI or SikhRI.org, and the other website is PunjabDigitalLibrary.org. If you need more information regarding both of the organization and their events, please contact Jagdeep Singh.
Yeah, we've got his
He
phone
is our
number
coordinator, and his phone number you have.
Yeah, we've got his phone number here, which is great opportunities to contact him, great opportunities to attend the particular events that are going on. And for me, it was a great opportunity to meet you again. And
Very nice to see you again. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me here, and thanks to the Sikh channel to bring me here.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Sikh Channel, and we really appreciate the fact that you give us an opportunity on a weekly basis, on a regular basis, to bring in, and I'll say it again, inspiring individuals who are knowledgeable, who have clear direction on what we need to do in terms of helping each other make that change and make a change for the good in your institution, in your daily life, in the fact that as Sikhs you can understand yourself better and help other people understand who you are. So we'll see you next time. This is Savi signing off on the weekly program. If I'm not here, Gurpreet's here. Gurpreet's at home, as I said before. I hope you had a great time, and I'll see you next time. Waheguru Ji Ka